yesterday, I'm going to take John Boehner at his word that nobody would try to bring down the full faith and credit of the United States government. Well, if they don't raise the debt ceiling, which more than one Republican has been on this air today and said they will not do, then we risk a bond, we risk a rating downgrade, and we risk full faith and credit in every way.
In every way. And of course, if you're talking about the idea that the deal might not go through, that would be even further catastrophic, because right now you have the rating agencies, you know, the Morgan and Moody's and those people all saying, you know what, there's going to be better performance. Even the liberal policymakers, people like Robert Greenstein at Center for Budget and Policy Priorities, all saying this is a second stimulus, essentially. And I think that puts pressure on the Democrats, because right now it's making the Democrats look bad in the House, the liberal base, as if they have somehow lost focus on the economy.
But it was President Obama, who the liberal base is pointing out today, that said during the campaign, these are not effective use of stimulus money. There will be some stimulus, of course, but not the kind of stimulus he wants. And he said part of the compromise was that Republicans are getting some things that they are giving on some things. Giving on the earned income tax credit, giving on to tax credit, tuition tax credit, giving on the child tax credit. But he knows as well as everybody else does that all of those items were put into the stimulus bill because the Republicans wanted those items there to sweeten the deal, and now they're getting them again. That's not a compromise by any stretch of the imagination.
It is a compromise if you consider this. The Republicans have been talking out of both sides of their mouth saying, oh, we want deficit reduction, and all we want to do here is extend the Bush tax package for all, even though, and this is the economic issue, the stimulative effect of giving the tax breaks to those who make more than $250 is really negligible. There's all these arguments about, oh, small business would be impacted. But when you break it down, then you're throwing in people like, you know, entertainers and big athletes. It's really not about small business. So if you really eliminated that for small business, for people making more than $250, you know what, then you would be taking away a substantial part of what this stimulus is going to cost, and it is going to drive up the deficit. But the fact is,
by almost $1 trillion.
But no, that's the entire cost.
That's the entire cost of all of it.
But remember, everybody, including those who make more than $250, was going to get the tax break extension on the first $250,000.
Unless none of it passed.
Right, and that would be a problem. And that's what the problem is now for Democrats. Even as they are expressing their discontent, even as they are roaring, and they're insisting the president now come to meet with them, don't send Joe Biden into the thick, you come yourself, Mr. President. I think Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, who for a second was saying, oh, it's just a framework, a deal is not fine, all of them are realizing right now there's so much pressure coming from Wall Street, but also coming from independent voters. How could Democrats go back to voters next time around and say, oh, no, we're the ones who allowed the tax cuts to expire and the economy to risk double-digit?
Yeah, they certainly have them in that spot. And one of the things the president was emphasizing yesterday was, we've compromised here, and now I have full faith that they're going to compromise with us in the future. Here are the items which are on the table right now. Don't ask, don't tell, START treaty, DREAM Act, and increasing of the debt ceiling. Since 12:52 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, various Republicans have been on this air saying that they oppose Don't Ask, Don't Tell's repeal. They oppose the START treaty. They oppose the DREAM Act, and they oppose increasing the debt ceiling. Did he get people who are now going to compromise with him as a result of this debt deal?
Well, you know, part of this was initial discussions that were taking place between the Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner, Jack Lew, the budget director, and some of the Republicans. Somehow it got into the business of START. So it immediately, it immediately extended into, you know what, this is a priority for the president. If we can get this done, there will be time left in the lame duck session to have these discussions. Essentially, that's a promise. Now, it's not a promise that it will pass, but you are seeing more Republican senators speaking favorably about having a vote on the START treaty, that they will not use their power to block the vote.
Think START treaty will happen?
I think it's more likely today than it was 2 days ago, for sure, and absolutely much more likely than it was last week. Jon Kyl remains intransigent on this issue, but I think even he is starting to feel heat from Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader in the Senate, who's saying, you know what, this may be in our interest right now to make this happen. But, you know, just to get back to does this really happen, take a look at what Kent Conrad, the Democrat who's the head of the Senate Budget Committee, is saying. He's saying, you know, I had some reservations, but right now I think we've got to do this. Bite your tongue, hold your nose, and jump in. And so I think that if you wanted to look at a key player, that's the player right there.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating couple of days ahead. It sounds like, from information we've just gotten in the last few minutes, that a Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal may be tagged onto a tagged on to a defense bill that may actually go through today, according to this. DREAM Act and increasing the debt ceiling, that's two other battles. And they will be battles. And then the clock will run out.
And the clock, you know, I mean, I'm a big fan of the DREAM Act. I think it's legitimate. I think it's the first step that we have to take in terms of some kind of immigration, necessary immigration reform. I don't care what your political bent might be in this country. It's just illogical not to do something about illegal immigration. But you know what? Doesn't look like there's going to be time right now. They got to do something about the deficit, though, the ceiling, the debt ceiling.
They don't raise the debt ceiling, the nation's in trouble.
You got it. That's a big
Everyone
deal.
agrees.
Right. No question. So I mean, you know, at some point you got to go beyond politics and say what's in the best interest of America.
We'll be watching.
All right.